Broadcast writing, writing for the ear. Award-winning work is a great way to see how the pros do their job. So I've posted several samples for you online that'll offer you examples of broadcast writing in its various forms. This isn't necessarily the complexity level that we'll be doing for class, but it gives you an idea of what good storytelling looks and sounds like. For this story, which is from King, Seattle, The Life Cycle of a PB&J, listen to that, watch it, and think about what it took to produce this story. How long do you think it took them to shoot this? How many interviews? How many days of interviewing? How long did they have to edit it? What did it take to write this script? This is an excellent example of storytelling. And so as you watch it, think about the surprises that you see and pay particular attention to how this is a good example of a story that gives voice to the voiceless, as we've discussed before, treating people with dignity. This story runs for 5 minutes and 48 seconds, which is a little long for many broadcast stories, but you'll see how the story unfolds and does give you some surprises. Then there's this story from NPR, which is an audio story. So while we're talking about broadcast writing, that term can even be, it's a little misleading sometimes because broadcast, when we're talking about radio and TV, of course, we think of our traditional methods of delivering that, but you may listen to radio on a podcast. So we'll continue to call this broadcast writing, even if we're talking about streaming online. This story involving worms is an interesting story for a number of reasons, but listen to the sound bites, and we'll talk in a minute about what a sound bite is. See what the reporter did that was a very smart move to get some very good sound for this story. Soledad O'Brien, who's with CNN, says this about storytelling. I think everything and everyone has a story. The way to make things relevant for people is to explain it in a story. You just want to tell the story and make people understand what's at stake, what's at risk, why they should watch. So that's your job, to help people hear and see the story, to compel them. When we're talking about writing for broadcast, whether it's radio, TV, or online, we're talking about writing for the ear because you hear the story. When we're talking about writing for online or in print, it's writing for the eye, and that's what we've been doing so far. Writing for the eye is more about reading the story, and we consume or we take in the content differently for these various mediums. So if we think about a TV station in particular, when we're talking about TV, you might think of the traditional broadcast, whether you watch it online or when it's on the actual TV. So that is writing for the ear because we're watching the video, but we're hearing the audio, and that's so important. Online, the content, we read the story. So this is a good example of converged media, right, that we've talked about, where one media outlet operates across multiple platforms, and we really all do that across our disciplines. So broadcast on air, web content, and of course, social media. If you're thinking about a script, even PSAs, videos that run on the web, if we're talking about professionally produced videos, chances are there is a script involved because ad-libbing is not the way most professionals do their job, right? So there's a short script for the San Antonio PSA, which is done by the PR people for the city of San Antonio. Here's another example for you to watch, Dan's Coffee Run. Now this story, as you watch it, look at how it mimics broadcast. This could be a broadcast news story, and in fact there were broadcast news stories done about Dan, but this is a PR production, right? This was produced by PR professionals. So watch it and you'll see at the very end, that's how you'll know. There's different lingo, different language that we use in broadcast. So here are a few of the distinctions. Voiceover, right? We say VO, that's the reporter talking over the B-roll, which again is another term. So B-roll is all of that video that we see that just sort of moves along through the story. Sound on tape or soundbite, that's what we have called a quote so far, but when we're working in broadcast, we call it a soundbite. And then when we're using it, we use sound on tape. A package is basically a story with multiple pieces. And a stand-up, which we won't be doing, but that's where you'll see somebody on camera or when they're doing a live report. So you can watch this Bobcat Update segment online, and this has an example of a story with a number of sound bites, voiceover with sound on tape. Let's take a look at how these two stories about the same subject, written by this TV station, at this TV station, let's take a look at how they're different and how they're the same. Now, this is the same story. One person likely produced both of these versions, but you can tell just by looking at them they're very different. This is the script that would have been read on air. This is what ran on the website, and you can still watch the story online. So let's think about the leads, right? So writing for the Eye, this is the web story. 4 people were arrested after a taxi driver was attacked outside a Lee County gas station early Monday morning. Very similar to the style we have been doing. For the Ear, the first line of the broadcast script. Tonight, 4 people are accused of attacking a cab driver in Naples. It's shorter, it's simpler, and it uses present tense. So this is the script. Let's take a comparison. Let's look at the format, the content, the tense that they use, the length of the story. We'll compare it to this web version of the story, right? So let's see how they stand up against each other. The web version, the story formatting, very much what we've been doing. Standard online formatting. Don't indent the paragraphs, use a space between the paragraphs. This story is 223 words long. Again, similar to what we've been doing. The lead and the rest of the story uses past tense. We name the individuals in the story, the 4 people arrested in detail, first name, last name, age, where they're from. And the story even has more detail. What was the amount of the bond? All of those sorts of things. So a lot of detail when we're writing for the Eye because people will read that detail and can understand it. In the script, however, if you're listening, all of that detail can be confusing and can be lost as you listen. So first of all, we're going to write this script in all caps. And that's because when people are reading on air, when the reporters or the anchors are reading, it's easier to read all caps. This entire story is 72 words as opposed to 223 words. It's in present tense. We want to put people there, basically. So this is in present tense. There aren't any names in this story. These 72 words, we don't name those 4 people, which would have taken up a whole bunch of those 72 words. However, you can tell from the screenshot that their pictures and their names were on the screen during the TV story. Again, present tense for everything in the story, and short sentences and short paragraphs, which is evident just from looking at this. So these stories are very different, but they're produced by the same person. We're called upon to be able to write in both formats, particularly when we're working in broadcast, either TV or radio. And as we know, strategic communications professionals have to write across all of our platforms. We also have to write video scripts when we're working in a traditional online or print media because we're also producing videos. So a skill we all need to have.